One of the most frequent frustration points I hear from my students is that they can't focus. Whether reading, sitting in class, or doing anything that requires attention, they just zone out. And I hear this from all types of students, so middle school, high school, college, and even working professionals. And I hear this from my students with ADHD and without ADHD. Basically, I hear I can't focus or I get distracted like all day long. If this sounds like you are in the right spot. So in this video, I'm going to explain two main reasons why this is happening, how to figure out why it's happening to you, and then give you some strategies for what to do about it. Hi, I'm Katie Azevedo from SchoolHabits.com. I'm a private executive function coach who teaches students and professionals strategies to learn and work better. Please consider liking and subscribing. That means the world to me. And for more tips and tricks for school and studying and productivity, you can find me over on Instagram. So, the ability to focus is under executive functions. Our executive functions are a critical set of mental skills that enable us to plan, organize, think flexibly, manage our time, and focus. So almost all people with ADHD struggle with concentration and focus, but so do people without ADHD. And honestly, every single person in the world is susceptible to losing concentration or getting distracted at some point, including me, the executive function expert. So in my experience, there are two main reasons behind the I can't focus narrative. In other words, focus issues often stem from one of the following two reasons. Number one, we don't know what to focus on. So like of all of the things, we don't know what to do. Or number two, we can't focus long enough to get the right things done, and this is called attention endurance. Now the most important step, the first step, is to figure out which of these reasons is the reason behind your inability to focus. Now, if you have ADHD, it's probably the second reason, that it's just hard to focus for long periods of time. But do not discount the first reason, which is you don't know what to focus on, because that's usually a factor at play as well. Anyway, once you figure out the root cause of your lack of concentration, you can use the right strategies. And I'm going to explain how to do this. Don't worry. So to figure out whether you can't focus because of A, you don't know what to focus on, or B, you lack focus endurance, like you can't focus long enough, you're gonna need to do some work. So I'm going to go over some characteristics of each of those two focus issues. You wanna listen carefully here. You wanna rewind the video if you miss something. Think about these. Of course, I'll also put them up on the screen so you can take a screenshot if you want, but don't skip this step. It is critical to know what the reason is behind your lack of focus so that you know which strategies to use. Also, keep in mind we can go back and forth between, reason A and reason B, depending on the task and honestly depending on like so many different factors. So here are the characteristics of each. You likely don't know what to focus on, so I'm dealing with the first category, if you procrastinate a lot, you're a perfectionist, you feel like you don't have enough materials or that you never have the right materials to start, you get anxious before you start something with the feeling, like the fear that you might be doing it wrong, or you're constantly waiting for the right time to start. All right, moving on to the second category, category B, which is you lack focus endurance. Now this is most likely your root cause. If you can only focus on a challenging task for 5 to 10 minutes before getting distracted, you often disguise your distractions as, oh, I have to go check XYZ for a minute. You have an excessive amount of tabs open on your computer. You get antsy when you're working, as if you have to just suddenly get up and walk away. You suddenly, in the middle of a project, get urges to go do something that's more important, even though like 10 minutes ago it wasn't even important. And lastly, you sometimes don't even know you've lost focus until some time has passed and suddenly you realize that you're not even doing the thing that you were supposed to be doing. Remember, you can always pause this video, scroll back, listen through these again, okay? Because you really want to try to figure out which category resonates with you the most. Also, if you want a written transcript or a written form of this video, I have that in the form of a blog post on SchoolHabits.com. I will leave that in the description box. Okay, so now once you have figured out the reason behind your lack of attention, we're going to move on to what are the strategies to deal with it. Here are the tips. So if you fall under category A, which is you don't know what to focus on, you're going to want to break down all large tasks. So I'm going to call large tasks anything like that's more than 3 steps into a series of 15-minute tasks. And you're going to want to write these micro steps on a piece of paper. Number 2, ask for help. Ask for your teacher or your boss or your colleague or your peer to clarify what you're supposed to be doing. Number 3, just start. If you start and it happens to be the wrong place, then you will learn that soon enough. You'll figure that out once you start. But if you don't just start somewhere, you'll never figure out if that's the right place to start. If that's the right place to start or not. Next, you have to learn to prioritize. Prioritizing involves ranking tasks in order of importance, urgency, deadline, consequence, and resources. All right, moving on to the second category, which is if you lack focus, endurance, these strategies will be helpful to you. Clear all distractions from your workspace. Seriously, like put the phone away. Don't turn it upside down. Don't just like put it in your pocket in your bag. Put it away in another room. I just can't on this one. I can't. Okay, write down the thing that you're supposed to be working on a sticky note and slap it on your computer or whatever it is that you're working on. Okay? Do not underestimate the value of a visual reminder. Put it on a sticky note and put it right in front of your face for those moments when you get distracted. Literally, that little sticky note is enough to bring some of us back. Tell people in your household, your living space, your workspace that you are unavailable. And make this unavailability obvious by putting like an actual do not disturb sign on your door. You don't have one, you can make one, come on. Put your headphones on. Walk up to them and say, hey guys, I'm going to be unavailable for the next 90 minutes because I'm going to be working. I mean, chances are if you're living with someone who's like, I don't like that and I'm going to bother you, then there's probably a deeper conversation to be had there, don't you think? You also want to try time-based strategies, something like the Pomodoro technique or the power hour. You could also try some concentration training. So what you want to do is you want to figure out the average amount of time that you can work for without losing attention. And to figure this out, you actually have to like work on something and set a timer and then stop the timer when you find yourself getting distracted. Let's say it's 10 minutes, great. So that's your average concentration time. The next time you sit down to do work, set the timer for 11 minutes. See if you can do it. Okay, if you can last 11 minutes, you could do 12 and you would set the timer for 12 next time. And then 13 and then 14. It is very, very slow. This process for concentration training is slow, it's incremental, you cannot rush it. It can take weeks. We can sometimes regress a little bit, but it does work and you have to be consistent. But if you're serious about this, like if you're watching a video on how do I concentrate because this is affecting my life, then aren't you willing to try some strategies that take a little work? Yeah, I think you are. Now listen, if you have ADHD, then of course it is not at all a matter of just focusing more. Okay? ADHD is not a matter of willpower. There are neurological differences between someone with ADHD and someone without ADHD. But there's still the issue here of making a deliberate effort to improve your concentration. ADHD is not a death sentence. Yeah, you're gonna have to work harder to concentrate than someone without ADHD. That's just fact and that's part of the gig. It won't come naturally. But you do still have an element of control over learning strategies to manage your focus. You absolutely can improve your focus, but it starts with wanting to and then doing something about it. All right, as always, thank you so much for watching.